Good morning, Facebook. This is Blind Justice coming to you live on the streets of Aberdeen, Washington, sitting out front of City Hall here again. And it is day 10 of our peaceful protest, Resting is Not a Crime. We had the opportunity to get an interview with Tawny Andrews yesterday here out front of City Hall, back there somewhere on a bench. And it's a pretty lengthy interview. If you haven't checked out the video, it's an hour long, so we cover a variety of different topics, talking about some of the research she did for when she was looking into these ordinances before proposing them. We talked about constitutionality, we talked about enforcement, we talked about letter of the law, spirit of the law, and a few other things. So interesting conversation. I can kind of give a little recap, but I really want to talk about oaths, specifically an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that's pertinent for a few reasons. One, the people proposing and passing legislation here at the local City Hall, the council people, all swore oaths to the Constitution. The mayor swore an oath to the Constitution. I believe their corporate legal counsel swore an oath to the Constitution. And obviously the municipal court over here, judge, swore an oath, and just on the other side of that is the APD, the Aberdeen Police Department, and they all swore oaths. As far as I know, and you guys can inform me, please educate me on this. I'm not aware if Parks and Rec guys swear an oath to the Constitution. You know, if the PUD guys and gals, like the people who work in public works and other areas of employ of the city, swear an oath to the Constitution to work for the city. My inclination is to say probably not. So we'll get back to that point in a minute, but we're going to talk about the interview with Tawny, and this is the second real interview I had with her. The first one was maybe a minute long. So, and you can check out the YouTube clip on that. We have it posted on the page. And in that minute long, I basically asked, do you guys swear an oath as council people? She said yes. I asked her if the council people reviewed the constitutional arguments I made on May 9th prior to their voting to pass these things, and she said she didn't, and she wasn't aware if others did. They didn't discuss it. And then I asked her if she researched the Constitution when she was drafting these ordinances, and she said she researched the MSRC, which she brought some paperwork from that yesterday in our interview. She talked more about what that was. But then I asked her again, but not the Constitution itself, and she said correct. So when you take an oath to something, right, a personal oath, then that person that swears that oath has the personal responsibility to uphold it or not, right? If you defer that responsibility to somewhere else, or if you slacken that responsibility, and somebody points that out to you, hopefully it's in an encouraging way to, hey, please uphold your oath, like what we've been trying to do from the beginning. Please uphold your oath. Please don't pass these unconstitutional laws, right? So Tawny said that she's looked at this MSRC site, and so basically, instead of referring to the Constitution, learning about the Constitution, she couldn't articulate the purpose of the Constitution, right? She said a part of it is the freedoms of the people, to spell out, which is a part, but a big part of it is to limit the government, to lay out how the government is supposed to be set up, and to limit the control of the government. That's a big piece of the Constitution. The freedoms are in the preambles, like these are self-evident, right? But we're going to say some anyway, because if we don't, the government's going to try to take and take and take and take and take. It's the nature of government, take control from people. So we then asked about the ordinances, if they fall in line with that, of helping promote freedom and empowering the people and limiting government. And she's like, she recognized that no, it's the opposite. It actually is empowering the government, local law enforcement, to use force against people, and limiting the freedoms and the power of the people. So just in a simple understanding of that, without even having to look at the articles and the amendments, which I listed for them, you can recognize that they're clearly unconstitutional. But when the research done by the city council president is only on a site that is intended to help cover the butts of legislators or local municipalities, like, the purpose is, when you're the research, if the focus of the research is what can we get away with, what wording can we use to get away with this, to take away or limit the rights of the people and empower the government, instead of what does the Constitution say, what is the purpose, does this fall in line with that, there's some issues there, right? So, but that's one of the issues. We also had an interview with the mayor just right here, here in front, a few days ago. You can watch that video on the page too. And we asked him similar questions about, the Constitution. Has he looked at it with these ordinances? And he first said no, but I've consulted my counsel. And then he kind of said, yeah, but I've consulted my counsel. So he was real shaky on that, fuzzy. We handed him an actual copy of the Constitution that that Lily was studying, and had highlighted different areas and took notes pointing out which areas these ordinances violate the Constitution. So asked him to review that. But so just on that comment from the mayor, like, he's deferring his oath. Like he takes a personal oath to uphold something, and he's like, I'm going to defer that to my legal counsel. Legal counsel took an oath. She can keep my oath for me. It's essentially what that says, right? And so we have the city council president deferring her oath to some site intended to try to cover the backs of legislators, of the governmental officials. And then we have the mayor deferring his oath to legal counsel. So the question is, now that it's day 10, right? The ordinance was signed on day 8 on Thursday. I'm assuming it's going to be published in the paper today, Saturday, which means it goes into effect today. So the question now is, the other people here who have taken oaths as well, the courts, right? The local magistrate or local judge, and the enforcement officers, they all took oaths as well. Will they also defer their oaths to the Constitution? Will they defer it somewhere else and say, you know what, we're going to defer this to district court judges or Supreme Court judges? I don't know what the Constitution says, so I can't uphold it. Which, I don't understand how we can take oaths to things without... Actually, I do understand, and I do understand how we do that, because I did that when I was in the military. So I understand this. When I swore my oath in the military, it was just like, okay, this is what we say, this is what we do, we get in, we do this stuff, and you get caught up in the business and the rigmarole, and before you know it, you're out destroying lives and part of imperialism and other things, right? So it took me a while to realize, what did I actually swear an oath to? Maybe I need to look into this and see, what does it say? And it's a set of ideals about freedom, essentially, is what the Constitution is. And so I began learning more and more about it, and it's like, okay, well, how can I do that? How can I keep that now? Because I was oblivious to it when I was in the military a lot of the time, which is very common, as we are seeing here at the local government level. So I sympathize with Mr. Larson here and Miss Andrews and others that have been deferring their oath, because it's kind of what happens, right? Until somebody says, hey, do you actually know what you swore an oath to? Have you looked at this? Will you look at this, please? Will you try to keep your oath? So that's that. Back to the Parks and Rec thing, right? Again, I don't think Parks and Rec swears an oath. They may have individually. The person Doug that came out may have sworn an oath at some point. I don't know his background. never met the guy before that encounter. So he may have actually taken an oath from a different job, from a different position or whatever. But what, you know, so he may be, or he could be informed. You don't have to have an oath. You have to swear an oath to know what the Constitution says, right? So when he came out, he made a request, and somebody makes a request of you, you don't have to acquiesce, right? You politely refuse, which we did, but we actually asked first for the nature of the request, like what's the concern? We want to address your concern. We realize you're making a request because there's a concern. What is the concern? Oh, it's damage of private or public property. Okay. Well, can you make sure there's no damage? He inspected, made sure there was no damage. Okay. We addressed your concern. Thank you. And we're going to continue to peacefully protest, which is a constitutionally protected right. So then we have Bill comes out, and Bill, again in code enforcement, I don't necessarily think that that they swear oaths in code enforcement, but Bill, someone told me, was prior law enforcement. So at some point, Bill did swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, right? So coming out to harass peaceful protesters that are exercising constitutionally protected rights, right, violates the oath Bill took. So even if there's a code, you know, discrepancy here about is a stick in the dirt attached to the dirt, you know, secured in it, secured to it, whatever, that's minutia. That's not the point. The point is which one is being enforced, you know? The local code is taking precedent over the constitutional right to protest. The local code about they had to go digging before they could actually prepare and send us, you know, the information about which code they're trying to enforce, because he didn't know. He was just angry. You're doing something we don't like, which is what? Peacefully protesting, exercising constitutionally protected rights, something he took an oath to uphold and defend, right? So it's difficult to kind of take them seriously when they're not taking the supreme law of the land seriously. They're not taking their oaths seriously. So they can have 1,000 codes that say that this little thing's a violation because they passed an ordinance whenever people were sleeping and not awake. The point is, they all took oaths to uphold and defend the Constitution, and they seem to be ignoring that or deferring it to somewhere else. So since now we're on enforcement day, we'll see if any of the law enforcement will defer their oaths, or if they're going to keep them. And I do not envy the situation they're in at all. I sympathize with these guys and gals that are put in this situation to either uphold the oaths they took personally and protect the freedoms of the people, or follow unlawful orders because the city council and the mayor deferred their oaths. Alright guys, peace and love, and we'll be out here all day moving around downtown. So you guys take it easy. Alright.